Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. And thank you, of course, to the organizers for bringing us together. I have the great pleasure and privilege to welcome with me on stage an incredible and outstanding panel of leaders and professionals in the world of tech diplomacy, which I would like to invite on the stage right now. As you wish. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on stage. As I was saying, we have an outstanding panel of leaders who will help us unpack the topic of today, which is tech diplomacy, two worlds that have been increasingly colliding and making the headlines in the past few years. Each of our guests here have an extensive background and experience building bridges between policy, innovation, and security. And I would like to thank them for being on stage with us today. And perhaps to kickstart the conversation, you could, each one of you, give us a very brief introduction of who you are, your background, as well as your role in this field of tech diplomacy. So we can go from this order.
Thank you so much, Nariman, and thank you for having me. I'm Fatima Sheikh. I'm the Secretary General of BADIA, the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa. It's a bank that is founded by 18 member states of the Arab region and oriented to development finance in sub-Saharan African region. I have more than 25 years of development and humanitarian experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it on? Can you hear me? Thank you very much, Nariman. My name is Ahmed Farouk. I'm Pakistan's ambassador to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm a career diplomat with almost 3 decades of service in the diplomatic service of Pakistan. I've been here for about 2.5 years, and before that I was Pakistan's ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark. And I have extensive experience, especially on the multilateral diplomacy. I've served in the Pakistan mission to the UN in New York, as well as the Pakistan mission to the UN Rome-based agencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Narimani. My name is Professor Cornelio Biola. I'm Professor of Digital Diplomacy at the University of Oxford. I've been researching digital technology for 10-15 years now, publishing a lot about how digital technology are being used in key functions of diplomatic activity, like crisis communication, like international negotiations, like public diplomacy. My current area of research is, of course, is artificial intelligence, how artificial intelligence is changing the diplomatic game, and now slowly moving as a new project into the field of quantum technology, which seems to be on the horizon, rising on the horizon. Many countries, including the EU, developing quantum strategies. So in brief, that's my area of research and my contributions to the field so far. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Nariman. My name is Hajar Ladawi, and I'm the Director General of Digital Cooperation Organization, which is serving 16 member states, 800 million of population. What we do is really moving from shared value to real framework, serving the digital economy in our member state and abroad through an ecosystem. My experience is mainly in the tech and diplomacy. I've been serving in different entities in Canada, Europe, and the MENA region. And I'm just moving from Zurich recently to Riyadh to serve this amazing mission. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bokar Ba, and I am the CEO of Samina Telecommunication Council based in the UAE. Samina is an advocacy platform representing the private sector throughout the Arab region. I've been in this industry over the past 35 years, and our role is to build bridges between private sector and government and ensuring that investment will be sustainable, predictable, and we are a sector development partner for policymakers and regulators. And tech diplomacy, digital diplomacy is the tool that we are using in our advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really great to have such a comprehensive representation of the government, private sector, and multilateral organization, as well as academia on the same panel to unpack this topic. So without any further ado, please allow me to start with yourself, Ambassador Farouk. With the advent of new technology, thinking about cloud computing, quantum computing, and AI, we have seen traditional diplomacy being reinvented. I have personally seen within embassies having digital attaches role being created, seeing digital ambassadors as well, ICT specialists. So perhaps to illustrate what tech diplomacy is in action, you could give us an overview, a concrete example of how Pakistan has engaged the tech industry on the issue of tech diplomacy and how this has led to very factual, concrete advancements.
Thank you very much, Nariman, for this question. I would like to, before going into the core of your question, say a few words of how technology has become important in the area of diplomacy. When I joined the diplomatic service almost 30 years back, diplomacy was all about international politics, security, international law. Our interactions with our colleagues, fellow diplomats, used to be all about matters relating to international security, international politics. This is how we were trained to approach our profession in terms of our analysis in our reporting. But about 20 years back, things started to change, and there was greater focus on economic diplomacy as a whole. And we had to focus now on issues related to investment, to trade, and you started to learn concepts such as internal rate of return, return on equity. But then over the last 10 years, things, the technology started to become more important as a core issue of national security, as well as a key driver of global economy. And particularly over the last 5 years, when we see with the advent of artificial intelligence, so we are now focused more on dealing with issues such as cybersecurity, digital crime, artificial intelligence. So, diplomats have been now forced to learn these new concepts such as machine learning, deep learning, agentic AI, inference. And when I look at myself, both in my current post as the ambassador in Saudi Arabia, as well as previously as ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark, technology-related work has acquired a big, it is consuming a lot of my time in terms of the work that we do. And I would say, from Pakistan's perspective, we see technology as a key driver of global economy, as well as a sort of core area for our diplomacy as well. And a very important example of our participation in tech diplomacy is our membership of the Digital Cooperation Organization. The DCO was established at the initiative of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan is proud to be one of its founding members. And at the DCO, all member states, including Pakistan, we are working towards creating policies that help in ensuring inclusivity in terms of the impact of digital economy for the member states. And within the DCO, Pakistan is leading what is known as the Digital Foreign Direct Investment Initiative, which is in partnership with the World Economic Forum. And the focus of this initiative is to drive FDI into the tech sectors of DCO member states. So in order to launch this activity, Pakistan hosted a ministerial event in April this year, which had the participation of 133 delegates from almost 44 countries, representing government, private sector, academia. And the best part of this event was that all these stakeholders were present under one roof, and they were able to look at policy issues, discuss business opportunities, discuss investment opportunities. And we anticipate that almost several $100 million of business was generated through this event. Now Pakistan aims to host this event annually, and we'll also be organizing other activities in cooperation with the World Economic Forum during the events at Davos. In addition to that, Pakistan actively participates in discussions related to technology at all the major global forums, which includes the United Nations, ITU, regional bodies such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And our focus there is that we promote policies that help create prosperity for all, and especially the focus is that the voices of developing countries are heard. The policies should be inclusive of the needs of developing countries. So this is our overall approach and focus towards tech diplomacy.
Thank you, Ambassador. And building upon your comment, I'd like to perhaps turn to Professor Biola. Your research explores how digital technologies are reshaping tech diplomacy and international relations at large. Ambassador Farouk has just given a couple of examples of those tech diplomacy approaches. Perhaps based on your research, you could share with us new and innovative forms of tech diplomacy that you have seen emerge in the region or outside the region, and how it has shifted traditional diplomacy and lessons perhaps we can draw from it.
Thank you very much for the question. Indeed, in putting my academic hat, let me start by asking, why are we talking about tech diplomacy today? 10 years ago, the buzzword is digital diplomacy. 20 years ago, it was science diplomacy. What is different nowadays about tech diplomacy that, for instance, distinguish it from digital or science? I mean, there is a lot of overlap between them. But the key question, I think, the answer to this is that something is happening. We see now a new range of technologies. We're talking about AI, biotech, quantum technology, developing very fast, and traditional methods, diplomatic methods of managing them are not enough. In addition to that, there is another key element, is the fact that the sources of power is changing. Science diplomacy, you can still do it with state actors, in the sense that you try to facilitate cooperation. Remember the Antarctic Treaty, the CERN in Switzerland, climate change. digital diplomacy, you already see a new actor emerging. These are private tech companies influencing a lot how information is controlled and disseminated. And nowadays, we see with the rise of AI, the rise of quantum, the rise of private actors and the individuals that actually challenge the power of the state. We have to remember diplomacy always been at the core about influence, being able to influence and exert influence. And when you lose track of how to do this, then you have to react. So we talk about tech diplomacy nowadays because traditional diplomatic services need to manage this transition. And this is why 2017 we see the rise of a new breed of diplomat, the tech diplomat. The first one was appointed by Denmark, tech ambassadors. It was not appointed in Washington. Denmark still had the ambassador in Washington. It was appointed to Silicon Valley. After Kasper Klinge was the first tech diplomat, 26 other countries developing the same type of position. Why? Because they want to engage with new powerful actors, tech companies, which have acquired a tremendous influence. Now, what do they need to do? Building on what the ambassador said, I think there are three areas in which tech diplomacy aim to manage this transition. One is to develop a competitive capacity. Yes, United States has a lot. China is developing. Europe is lagging behind. But many others don't have that capacity. And they need to talk, they need to invest, they need to find ways to build that capacity, not to be left out. Because if you are left out, there is a digital divide which might be very difficult to catch up. Second aspect is that tech diplomacy creates critical dependencies. And in an age of geopolitical tensions in which this critical dependency can be weaponized, you have to be careful. So again, there is a question about how tech diplomacy can be aware of the choke points and the difficult dependencies that are being created and how to react to them. That's another area. And the third one is innovation, what I call innovation realignment. New blocks that are being created. Because technology, in order to buy technology from one country to another, you have to trust that is not going to be used against, and that's a very difficult enterprise. So tech diplomacy reacting to a new context, comparing with digital, comparing with science, and in a different context, less cooperation, more competitive. An example, then, a special issue that I published this year, I looked at the TTC, because you asked me about examples. TTC is the Trade and Technology Council. It's a forum of engagement in the United States and Europe during the Biden administration. And what was interesting for me is, speaking about these three dimensions, the third element, creating innovation alignment, is what did they talk about? They created 10 working groups to talk about AI, about semiconductors, about green procurement, and a lot of discussion at the beginning has been about language. Do we have the shared language about risk, for instance, in the case of AI? Because on the two sides of the Atlantic, they have different understandings of what is risky in terms of investment. So there's a lot of collaboration in trying to push forward with new norms that can actually create that kind of zone in which engagement could take place. I think this it remains to be seen. Speaking about also risk, to what extent this kind of forms will continue. But I mentioned two innovations at the moment in the terms of diplomatic practices. One is the tech ambassador, engaging directly with tech actors. And second is the question of new formats that deal both with trade and technology, something that didn't necessarily exist before. And the EU is trying to continue, for instance, with India, developing digital partnership with other countries. So we are now, I think, at a very interesting stage, and I'm going to conclude with this, in which state actors are not only the only kids on the block, if you allow me to say. They are competing for influence with a lot of new actors, very powerful actors. And they need to engage with them, and they need to find ways to maintain their influence on the international stage. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to bounce back on the concept of capacity building, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's skills. And Dr. Fatima, this question is specifically for you. So the Badia has had a number of initiatives advancing digital transformation across Africa, and you have engaged a number of tech actors of different nationalities as well across the continent. And I'd like to link this up with socioeconomic development and how your organization fits within that broader tech diplomacy effort to really advance socioeconomic development in your geography.
Thank you, Nariman. And I think just to build on the point raised by His Excellency the Ambassador and I would say the scientist part of it. For Badia, partnership in tech diplomacy is actually looking at the overall regulatory platform to build a trusted platform where countries are able to look at digital solutions that are advancing development. So in one way, if you look at Africa, you will see that we are, the continent has a diverse presence. You will find areas where you have good access, but you will find areas where digital divide is a phenomenon. But I think the way that we see the future as a development bank that is specialized in financing Africa is the fact that digital cooperation can only happen if we are making it a transformative agenda towards economic inclusion, towards an enhanced access of, I would say, social services, translating it from just a mere service accessibility in terms of a digital solution towards a more of a human-centered approach in the digital transformation. I would quote the example of what we're working with as what we call it the Arab Africa Trade Gateway, which was a digital platform that Badia worked on setting up, looking at an opportunity where we can provide the essence of our establishment, which is Arab Africa Cooperation, with Saudi Arabia being one of our major shareholder and the home. And Saudi Arabia is actually anticipated to be one of the major producers for AI in the future. So I think we are positioned through similar solution and with the presence of DCO in proximity from us. I think we are positioned in a way to look at similar platforms that can help engagement in terms of regional cooperation, regulatory harmonization without having to go through the complex negotiations. And I think we've seen how complex the negotiation can be, but I think digital solution give a faster way, if you wish, for bypassing towards reaching the human.
Thank you. Mr. Ba, I think a lot of the common themes that I'm seeing in those conversations are around cooperation, partnership, negotiations, and really about building bridges between different members of the tech community. And obviously your organization has played a significant role in that regard. And I wanted to get from your vantage points how you see industry consortiums play a role in aligning policy priorities between governments and your role within those efforts as well.
Thank you for this important question. The context. Technology has become a central pillar not only of economic growth, but also of, we mentioned, geopolitical influence and the transformation of our societies. Our subject today, tech diplomacy, is the emerging field that responds to this reality. Let me unpack it for our audience. In essence, tech diplomacy refers to the application of diplomatic practices to the technology sphere, enabling government, companies, and civil society to engage on so many issues relevant today, such as digital governance, data sovereignty, name it, infrastructure interoperability, AI, ethics, and cybersecurity. It is both a strategic response and a cooperative mechanism, which mean a way to ensure that innovation does not outpace inclusion. Standards are shaped together rather than imposed, and that technology development is guided by shared values rather than fragmented interests. Now, cross-regional industry consortia like Samina Council today are more than networking platform. They are policy-shaping mechanism We know technology is borderless, but the regulation remains national. This mismatch can't slow down digital progress if we don't use the power of platforms that align industry and policy makers across the region. At Samina Council, our role has always been to bridge gaps that persist between stakeholders, especially the regulators and the private sector. By convening operators, regulators, and investors from the region, we've been able to foster policy harmonization that supports investment and innovation. Let me illustrate by one example, which is related to a major challenge the world and the region are facing today, and where the Council has made key contribution. And I'm referring to funding digital infrastructure and reducing financing pressures on telecom operators, and it has been a key realization over the past decade. It remains a major challenge in our industry. So Samina Council has been instrumental in shaping the discussion on digital development by drawing stakeholders' attention and building consensus. Platforms like Samina and others, DCO, are critical and can make decisive contribution toward creating an environment within the industry to help trade through complex digital landscape and to make effective use of digital policy tools, for example, the DCO Digital Economy Navigator, which is designed to improve ICT maturity and build digital cooperation. So, by facilitating dialogue and collaboration among operators, tech providers, government, and other digital ecosystem players, we've been able to help build digital economy and digital cooperation across border. Now, the role is clear. We are trusted platform where regional priorities are harmonized into global advocacy. Therefore, we must move, and that is important, from passive observation to active alignment. And tech diplomacy offers us a chance to negotiate not only access to technology, but to its design, its governance, and distribution. It helps somehow bridge the trust deficit between regions, public and private sector, and between innovation and regulation. So at its core, tech diplomacy is about ensuring that the digital future is interoperable, inclusive, and intentionally collaborative. That is why our engagement is here not only timely, but essential.
One of the most sort of natural entry point of digital alignment is probably governance, and I'd like to turn to you, Dr. Hajar, on that. How do you get within the DCO, but also more broadly, countries that have different levels of capacity, where you see massive digital inequalities, and also different policy priorities, to work together on governance specifically? Can be AI, can be any other topic, but how do you get those countries to really see eye to eye on topics where they're probably not equipped the same way?
Well, thank you for this, important and very to the point question about the governance. So DCU is the only intergovernmental organization that is working in an ecosystem, which is we are not only working with the government, but also the private sector, public sector, and our partners like from Samina, like from World Bank, Badea, ISDB, etc. And that's really important to align on the governance, but also to get into agreement. When we talk about, for example, trade today, trade will be $1 trillion in the digital trade this year. So $1 trillion is not only the government, it's also the private sector involved, the public sector involved, policymakers, regulators, and we have seen what happens for the trade. So putting those countries together or in multilateralism framework will make it more smooth if we do an agreement and allow proactively this challenge or turn it into an opportunity. Most importantly, Ambassador Farouk talked about the DFDI, and the DFDI, or Digital Foreign Direct Investment, is really critical and important in that case on how we will negotiate, how we will bring these policymakers, all the stakeholders together, and that happened with partnership. Means we cannot do it alone or in silos. It's important to cooperate between the countries and the regulators, but also showing the challenge himself. When we take an example about Africa and Europe, we see today that the Vortex alone is investing 5.6 billion for the immigration, to avoid immigration from Africa. And the investment is to manage borders and not to got to the roots of the issue or the challenge that they have. There is only bilaterals agreement to the cross-border or to protect the borders or the front. So what we do is to work together with those countries to make it really more long-term agreement to work on the digital FDI as a solution to involve also the training and skills building, because if this unemployment is a solution for the migration, that's the roots of the cause, and displacement, stability of the country, and that's important. So therefore, we're investing in the DFDI for the countries to really go to the roots and negotiate, starting the governance, the regulation, but also multilateral agreements that allow a long-term solution instead of only management of the borders. On another area is more the AI or the technology. AI exists in 1918, so it's not something new. But what happens before, the AI was data-centric, analyzing data. Today, creating data. And tomorrow is, or already now in some of the countries, is acting. So agentic AI is acting. So it includes cybersecurity challenges, it includes data, cross-border data flow, it includes also technology involvement, but what its biggest challenge is the digital divide in AI, not only in technology. So today, some of the countries are really advanced, others not. And this is due also to the governance side, as per your question. And the governance and policy and regulation, we cannot do it on a bilateral level. It should be through the multilateral agreement, and therefore a platform like DCO, like Samina, like the ITU, where we're working on regulation and policies to involve, but also to make more secure cross-border data flow, or trust cross-border data flow it's mainly the relevance. Thank you.
Thank you. And all of this is happening really fast as technology itself is advancing. Just earlier, we were discussing the shift from LLM to SLM, the shift from Gen AI to agentic AI, and how in the future we'll have AI agents almost operating as humans, having identity management access to payments, etc. And obviously, as we're tackling all those current challenges, you have to look at the way forward. And back to you, Ambassador Farouk, what are the immediate sort of challenges and risks that you see and have to navigate at the moment when it comes to tech diplomacy?
Thank you very much. I think that's a very important question that we all have to tackle. The rise of technology and tech diplomacy has created a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, many risks as well. And the way I see it, the biggest risk that we face today is the risk of being of developing countries being excluded from the benefits of technology, which is likely to create haves and have-nots. So the risk is particularly high in emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, where a few nations are expected to get the lion's share of the economic promise which AI will bring. The same also applies to chip technology, where again there will be the development and of chips, the designing of chips will be dominated by a few countries, and without access to this vital piece of hardware, no nation will be able to achieve the economic goals that they set themselves for their technology sectors. So this is, I think, where the biggest opportunity is for tech diplomats, that how we can minimize this division and this exclusion. And what I think diplomats, now tech diplomats, need to do is to create platforms that can help advance more inclusive policies that can promote prosperity for all, so that all nations are able to benefit from the promise which technology offers. And again, I would go back to the example of the Digital Cooperation Organization, which is a unique organization because it has a small number of member states right now. And it's a good mix of developing as well as technologically advanced countries. And we are working at creating exactly policies that can help promote inclusivity and can, by creating shared experiences, best practices, and policy guidelines for member states. Now, in that regard, we recently also welcome the establishment of the UN Secretary General's high-level advisory body on AI governance, which is aimed at putting the United Nations at the center of AI governance, because that, again, AI is expected to have major impact on the economy, on the societies, and there is a need for greater collaboration at the international level to help create an environment where we are able to understand and deal with the impacts of these modern technologies. At the same time, I think there is another opportunity, and some of it has been also mentioned by the fellow panelists, that as a tech diplomat, as representing my own country, we now have this opportunity of promoting the economic goals set by our nations in the tech sector. So previously, the interactions used to be more state to state, but now we have this opportunity of interacting with tech firms, with innovators, with investors. And this is something which me and my team is trying to do here in Riyadh, whereby we are trying to establish government-to-government, business-to-business linkages by connecting firms with regional bodies, with investors. And over the last 2 years, we have managed to bring almost about 100 Pakistani tech companies in the kingdom, and these include all the top names from Pakistan. And through their services and products and solutions, they are making a very valuable contributions to the goals set by the kingdom under its Vision 2030. And at the same time, they are creating business and employment in Pakistan as well. Again, at the global level as well, we are participating actively in all the discussions that are happening at various forums. And Pakistan wants to play an important part in promoting policies that help limit the divisions that can be created, and so that everybody can benefit from the promise of technology.
Right, so tech diplomacy is about cooperation, partnerships, and alignment, but I think ultimately the goal is to really build trust and maintain that trust over time. Trust between governments to governments, trust within the technology as well, with the tech actors. So Professor Biola, I wanted to get your perspective on how tech diplomats are doing to really keep up with the technology, to be able to maintain that trust, and whether there are any specific risks they should keep in mind that they need to prioritize to maintain it over time.
Thank you again for your question. And just to build on what the ambassador said, in terms of risk, indeed, the digital divide in this context has to be taken seriously. This is a different type of digital divide in the sense that if some countries manage to pull through, the others will find very difficult to catch up. So you need to be in the game from the beginning. In addition to that, I'll highlight two other risks. It's a question of adaptation, how to adapt to this kind of technological innovation. International institutions adapt slowly, and for good reasons, right? They don't want to adapt to any type of change that is transient and is not impactful. So they take time. In addition to that, most of the multilateral organizations are what I call legacy institutions, built after 1945. And they adapt at their own pace, some of them better than others. DCO, for instance, is the only multilateral organization that was established recently. And it's beneficial for them to do this because they can set up in a different way, more agile, more engaging. But adaptation is an issue for international institutions. There is an interesting book published about 10 years ago, 15 years ago by 3 Harvard professors. They call adaptive leadership. What adaptive leadership means, especially in the context of international organizations, institutions, is that adaptation is not only a technical issue. It's not about finding the proper technical solutions to the proper format, the proper level of expertise, but also to question some of the assumptions that helped your organization before to thrive. So they developed 6 principles. We don't have time to go through them, but I'm going to highlight 3 points. One is what is your DNA? What is important for your organization that you want to keep? And I think it was mentioned here. As a diplomatic institution, you want to keep that type of capacity to build trust, inclusivity, rule-based order. There are some elements that you want to make sure that whatever adaptation, whatever adds-on you make, these things remain there. The second aspect, what is important to be able to discard? As you move forward, certain things don't function anymore. One element, for instance, that I want to highlight is the slow pace of negotiation nowadays. Remember Digital Compact, it took about 4 years to develop. And I guess by next year, it has, I don't want to say it's, but next year I think some of the elements might become outdated. So what I'm saying now, it needs to become more agile. This is why I mentioned the DCO. Agile in terms of having these regulatory sandboxes. This is a new interesting term in which you basically test some of the new things as they move forward in terms of regulation, in terms of norms, what works, what doesn't. You don't need to wait 5 years. We're talking about AI, quantum is on the horizon. China, understand they're developing 6G. So things are moving very fast. You need to become more agile in terms of formats, in terms of expertise, in terms of being more proactive. I also say in terms of what will make the third element, what will make your organizations thrive. Diplomacy has always been a state-centric activity. Now you have to open up. You have to open up because you engage with private actors, you engage with academic institutions. This is where knowledge, in principle, is also produced. You have to engage with other stakeholders. So being able, again, this you already mentioned this, being able to create this kind of new alliances. I mentioned the quantum case in the case of EU. They are building the Quantum Alliance, part of the strategy they published 2 months ago. Quantum Alliance meaning state actors and academic institutions that need to produce, NGOs. And this is difficult to manage, but you have to make sure that things are fall into place. So adaptation is one problem. How to get it right? You have to experiment a lot. You have to be proactive. You have to be aware what is your DNA that you want to keep, what are you willing to give up, and how to move fast. The second risk, which I think is it has to also to be taken seriously, is the dark side. Any technology has a dark side. And by dark side, I mean the way it is going to be weaponized, especially in the current geopolitical context. Digital diplomacy, everybody liked digital diplomacy in 2010. By 2014, 2015, things with the fake news and disinformation, things started to move in a different direction. And we should expect the same thing to happen with AI, which is boosting disinformation tremendously, especially with quantum. Quantum, if you don't take it seriously, all the inscription will be decryption, right, in terms of being done. So being able to build this kind of formats that sustain trust, it's a totally different game nowadays, especially because it could be openized not only by state actors, but also by private actors and individuals. Mindful of the powerful individuals rising on the scene that have the power to influence more than states. Elon Musk is one example, but Elon Musk is one of the many to come. Powerful individuals, not only tech companies that have their own diplomatic agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Keeping up, right? It's one of the key challenges, and the other side of not being able to keep up is increasing the digital divides that we see between countries. And back to you, Dr. Fatima. In the geo that you cover, you have countries with different level of capacity, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's skills, and there is for all of them this challenge of being able to build while being able to keep up. When we look at the intersection of tech diplomacy and socioeconomic development, what are the key risks that you see with countries that may fall behind the technology advancement, and how do you work with the tech ecosystem to help address or sway some of those concerns?
Thank you. I think it's important that we look at the risk in a more, I would say, a positive perspective. So if you look at the continent, generally the main issues are like, and I don't think that they are particular to Africa, maybe they are more profound in Africa. It's like fragmentation and exclusion, where you see a huge divide between youth and women, especially in rural versus urban. But then the critical part is fragmentation in regulatory platforms that the continent has. And I think that becomes a kind of an impediment to accessibility. But one of the phenomena that we've seen with if you wish, the fastest growing segment in the global history is the digital innovation. And I think with the recent evolution in terms of the AI and the whole science behind it, we've realized that it's one way for acceleration. And I think we should look at it from that perspective. It's the only science that knows borderless. And I'll give a concrete example. We've recently launched with the African Union, a competition for AI in the continent to look at innovation within the continent, because the continent, while being a recipient of global technology, they are also a producer of their own solution. And I think that's the only way you can harness the technology, while you're looking at the regulatory platform. One of the key issues that we've noticed with the regulatory platform is the issues of vulnerability, especially in terms of areas of cybersecurity, how you can create, I would say, risk-averse solutions that will be able to address within a local capacity. And that's where the need for capacity building becomes much more prominent. And we've partnered, for example, with one of the Tanzanian university to create a whole stream of cybersecurity, I would say, knowledgeable user spring. One of the main tokens that I want to leave behind for people to digest, and I think I'm very grateful for ITU and GSI for holding this event, is that there are many bottlenecks in global diplomacy, but I think digital diplomacy is a compelling factor. It's something that will not, if we don't know how to coordinate it and how to respond to it in an agile way, and I would echo the voices of my fellow speakers, that DCO presents a more promising opportunity, being more agile, being a newborn, relatively if you compare it to most of us who are like well-established MDPs or multilateral organizations. So I think the ability to maintain an agile framework of cooperation is very critical because the technology will leave you behind. I think that's the main token. You either act on speed and you become more agile and more responsive and adaptive, or you are left behind actually yourself as a multilateral institution and as countries in general. I thank you.
Yeah. Not and within the sort of frameworks you've described, Mr. Ba, the private sector, and speaking on as a representative of a private sector as well, we do have, let's say, the onus or the moral responsibility to also share the knowledge and engage government stakeholders. How do you see sort of the private sector engage, knowing that quite sometimes, if not often, private sector and governments don't always see eye to eye? How do we make sure that the private sector voices are integrated in the dialogues, but at the same time, we make sure that there's a common understanding of where the technology really stands?
I will come to the term that you have used, integrated. But I'll come to that at the end of my talk. But your question is very timely. We are entering a moment where tech policy will define competitiveness as much as trade and energy policy did in the past. And in this very moment, the private sector must not be passive observer, must be concretely a co-architect of digital cooperation. Tech diplomacy is the art of aligning diverse digital interests across borders, sectors, and stakeholders. And for regional actors and the private sector, it's about operating across complex landscape of national regulation, complex infrastructure maturity, complex digital ambition. So we must bridge policy asymmetries with an instrument that will ease multi-country investment planning. We share timelines and expectation. Let's keep in mind, colleagues, that when governments collaborate regionally, the cost of network deployment drops by 20 to 30% for a reason: efficiency of scales. Diplomacy here becomes a development accelerator. So from our standpoint, in the Samina region, we see it as a mechanism to create investment, certainty, regulatory harmonization, and policy coherence. To answer your question, and I will come to the term, that's why I'm smiling, to integrate. Our strategy is built on three folds, to make it very simple. Structured industry advocacy. We are building structured mechanism to ensure private sector perspectives are tabled early in policy discussion. For example, to make it simple, our dialogue on 5G spectrum, pricing, infrastructure sharing have directly informed regulatory approaches across several markets. Two, the engagement in multilateral frameworks. We are deepening our role in global platform where we act as a bridge for industry priorities from digital inclusion all the way to cybersecurity resilience. But three, the future-oriented setting of the agenda. We are positioning industry voices around emerging frontiers such as AI governance, cross-border data flow, space segment sustainability, and these are not tomorrow's debate, these are today. So Samina Council is ensuring that our region private sector is represented, heard, and contribute. We do not just want to join the conversation, we want to shape it. So in short, our mission is to make sure that the digital future of our region is not something decided elsewhere and imposed on us. Instead, it must be a co-creation. It must be co-created by policymakers and industry working together side by side. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the DCO is such a well-placed platform to promote a lot of those initiatives and those engagements and discussions. So Finally, back to you, Dr. Hajar. A difficult question, or perhaps two questions. What are the key opportunities you see for engaging all those different actors together on the same scene? And obviously, as we talk about how the technology is evolving, how we talk about innovation, what are the sort of innovative ways of, bringing everyone together that you are considering, knowing how fast the technology is evolving?
Right, thank you. Remove that one. So by bringing this ecosystem together, I think the power of multilateralism should be the key message for the digital diplomacy. As DCU, we have the digital economy navigator, and that's an opportunity for each and every country, not only our member state, but it's not an index of competitiveness. It's how the country should navigate their challenges and prioritize also the opportunities that are in place. Once we assess this gap with the countries, some of the countries are more savvy in the innovation side, others are in the health, others more on the skills and the training. So how we can create this power of we and of multilateralism. And what we do is to analyze this gap and to build on the digital strategy of our member state. But the how after is how we close this gap. How we close it is with the private sector, with the academia, with the diplomacy, with the digital diplomacy, together with the financial sector as a partner. And what we do is, if there is, for example, a gap that is in the innovation or in the health, there is best practices between the countries that we can plug and play in a country, saving time, saving also money, and investing in the right place to kind of elevate the priorities of the countries. Some of the countries today, when we ask them about the agenda, they say, my priority is AI. But this country is 20% connected. So how we can make them ready for the future, but also allow them to be from an infrastructure connectivity ready. The second part is the private sector. And I think, as mentioned by Professor Biola, the private sector is the power today, and it can have a power more than government. And what we are trying to create is the resilience in the countries or our member state. Building resilience means building also local champion. Not only a big player, but how we can elevate the private sector of each and every member state, pulling this power and allowing them also to expand in other countries, which will increase the GDP, but will increase also job creation and expansion. So bringing those opportunities together is, the progress come always with a challenge, and therefore as DCU we are really glad to have this ecosystem together, building also policy and regulation in an agile way, and last but not least, empowering all the levels of the country's economy or digital economy, starting from entrepreneur and SMEs to the private sector that they can expand, to helping government also to shape the future with clear regulation and framework, surviving with international regulation, but also keeping the national policies alike.
Thank you. Government, private sector, academia, multilateral organizations, all of those that you mentioned are now on stage together. So it's probably the sign that we're headed in the right direction, and I'm hoping we get to see more of those convening more often in the future. Thank you again for your insights. Thank you for your time. I can see the time is up. I really appreciate you being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Nariman. Thank you.